A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angeline, a student for the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. Welcome to You Alive, organized by the NUS Alumni Relations. You Alive, Lifting Thought is a quarterly speaker series that features global thought leaders and captains of industries who will share their personal journeys and engage in an open dialogue. Each speaker will have 30 minutes to share about a topic close to their hearts, followed by a 20-minute interview with our moderator, Mr. Viswa Sadasivan, and end with a 40-minute Q&A session. For our Q&A session, you may make your way to the microphones placed along the aisles. Introduce yourself and speak directly into them. This is essential so that the online community is able to hear your question. We will also be using Pigeonhole Live. If you have a smartphone, a tablet, or laptop computer with you, just launch your internet browser and go to pigeonhole.at. Key in our event passcode, which is UAlive. I repeat, it is UALIVE. Click Go, and you are free to fire away all your burning questions or vote for any question that interests you. Popular questions with more votes will stand a higher chance to be answered. Mr. Peter Ho is the CEO and co-founder of HOPE Technik, a local high-tech engineering company that specializes in unmanned systems, defense and biomedical devices, and special vehicles. Mr. Ho is personally involved in the company's 400 projects in 18 countries. Tonight, we are very honored to have Mr. Peter Ho here to share how he continues to stay at the forefront of smart engineering and technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome on stage Mr. Peter Ho.
Hi everybody, very good evening to you all. I can only say that when the Faculty of Engineering let me graduate in 2000 and something, I'm not going to tell you the exact year, yeah? It starts to hurt, yeah? And they let me graduate. I did not believe I would have the privilege to actually come back and share a story of what happened over the next couple of years. Just to give you the pretext and the position of what I do, I'm like the wonderful MC mentioned, I'm a co-founder and pretend to be the CEO, okay, of a local engineering company called HOPE Technik, okay? The story started in 2006. We started the company and we've grown the company. We have got three business units that we have right now. The first one is special projects. Basically, they're engineering mercenaries. Customers come with the most unusual requirements that you can imagine, and we would say yes and we'll deliver it. We have done a SpacePlane demonstrator for Airbus Defence and Space Group to test the aerodynamics and control theory for a space plane re-entering Earth's orbit. We have done prototypes for laparoscopic surgery inside for keyhole surgery. We have done lots of defense contracts. You name it, we've done it. We've done subsea, on sea, on land, on air. Our altitude record at the moment is 32 kilometers in altitude, where we send a human up. And the human came down and was still alive. So that's a nice way to start, yeah? The second business unit is Trigen Automotive, where we build vehicles, full-size vehicles. The one that's one of our calling cards is the Red Rhino fire truck for the Singapore Civil Defence Force. We also do the mass decontamination vehicles, hazmat command vehicles. We do emergency vehicles for Changi Airport emergency services, and we do emergency service vehicles for several other countries. So that's the second business. The third business, okay, is Sesto Robotics, and they are a mobile robotics company that does robots with arms. And we largely serve the semiconductor market globally. Okay, I'm not here to sell you koyo or business, okay? Just to tell you the context, that's what we do as a whole company. Good evening again. Once upon a time, I actually sat down with three other idiotic friends. I should just call them idiots. And we looked around and we asked ourselves, how many companies do we know that we have bought stuff from that exists in our home or in our lives? That was the question that we asked ourselves. We went home, we looked around and we asked ourselves, how many How many companies have become products? How many companies have become brands? And that was the basics of what we started with 11 years ago on the 2nd of May 2006. That was the question. Now you ask yourself, why do we ask such profound questions? The reality of it all is that if now I start on a macro picture to ask the question of why we did this ridiculous idea of doing a hardware engineering company in Singapore, the answer is very simple. We looked at the global scale and we asked ourselves, we got this theory called the cartoon theory. Okay, it's not very sophisticated. It's basically, what do you think will happen in the future without thinking too hard? Very simple, right? So we asked ourselves back then, do we think that the manufacturing hubs of the world will grow? Yes. Do we think that the cost of Singapore will increase? Yes. Do we believe technology will be more readily available? Yes. Do we think global travel is going to be will be cheaper and easier? Yes. This is 2006. I think every prediction that we had except for 4D all came true. Okay, all of this really genuinely did happen. So the premise was very simple. We said, we are fortunately engineers, okay, and unfortunately for us, we don't do the sexy stuff, the flavor of the moment, the flavor of the month. And the flavor of the month is a lot of software engineering, even back in 06. We are hardware people, okay. We wear safety boots to work. We wear the same polo shirt because it gets covered in grease. Okay, we are more comfortable in front of a very large machine with a welding torch and a hammer and a can of WD-40 and a roll of duct tape. Okay, that's the kind of stuff we're used to. Although the company has grown to add electrical and software engineering capabilities per se. So we looked at it and we said, we have a problem. Now comes the next thing that we have. We said, we have this very painful theory. The theory is, nobody wants you to succeed. I mean, it doesn't sound nice. I mean, for those with families, you know, be nice to your kids and tell them, I really want you to succeed. But the reality of what we looked at when it comes to business and our survivability is nobody wants us to succeed. The business will go somewhere in some country to some company, and your relevance is something that you have to fight for. So that was our it started to scare us. So before starting HOPE Technik, I was a race car engineer, which is probably one of the most frivolous jobs in the world. For those who speak the local tongue, what's okay, it's very hard to get a girlfriend because you meet the parents and they ask you what you do for a living. You tell them I build racing cars. They basically rate you as a second-class playboy. The first class is a race driver. Okay, the second class is the guy who fixes the car after the race driver crashes the car. We looked at it, we looked at technology, we realized how much our teams globally were being filled with people from all different corners of the world, and we faced the reality and we said, you know, this is a problem. So we chose that we would have a founding mandate as 4 founders, which the 3 other guys I call idiots. They call me much ruder things, which I'm not allowed to say the exact words. There's Hokkien, there's Teochew, there's Cantonese inside. For the gentlemen here who serve military service, all the bad words that we have learned in the 2.5 years of military service, yeah, they use that on me. And the reality is, we said as a founding mandate, what we are going to do fundamentally is we are going to justify our existence as a company for the next generation. Sounds very elusive, sounds very big. The problem is that, you know, nowadays everyone talks about the word disruption. Do you know how scared we are? We are in the hardware business. When the last time I went to Guangzhou, China, or Shenzhen, or anywhere, or Vietnam per se, it scared the crap out of me. The rate that they grow, the rate that they improve on, the reality of it all is they are fighting, and we have to fight. So we said, first and foremost, we are going to do it. And you ask why? Now comes the painful part. Because we don't know what else to do. There is something that we chose and we said, we are going to do what we like doing, and you actually look into the reason of why you like doing something is because we had a positive experience. And it so happens that it was building stuff. So we like to build stuff, and we kind of got pretty good at it. Pretty good at it. I'm being a bit generous with that judgment call there. But we did that and we said, okay, let's do what we are good at doing and what we enjoy doing, because we can last a long time doing that. So that was the first thing. Now the second part is about anger. That's the other part of it. So back in 2006, the job that everybody wanted to have was to be an investment banker. If I had submitted my resume, which would probably be half an A4 page long, I would not get an interview. I knew that for a fact. Obviously, we looked at it and we looked at how expensive the world had become and how certain careers were respected more than others. And we looked at engineering, we said, we don't understand this. What didn't we understand? We said, you know, engineers are the people who build planes. We build cars, we build bridges, we build defibrillators. Okay, we've built stuff. We have built stuff that has changed the whole face of humanity since the Stone Ages, right? I mean, trust me, the first time caveman did this and then there was fire, that was an engineer. You can't argue because you got no data, neither do I, right? So the reality of it all is we said, okay, we know that engineering sits at a certain point in time, or point in position in society, and we said, no, we're not going to accept it. This is our life, this is our career, this is all that we are. Why don't we try and find a way to bring the value back to engineering? Okay, now that sounds really cool. Bring it back to engineering. Now let's take one step back. I'll say that again. Why don't we bring the value back to us as engineers? We're not here to change the world. We'd like to try. But the reality of it all is that we are going to worry about our team that we are going to be responsible for and do the best of our abilities that we can look after them and give them that next jump in career, and that will be it. Engineering is a profession. So now we've got two things on the card here, right? So we said we are basically going to build something that is going to stand the test of time, and we're going to get rich doing it. Okay? Hey, come on, let's not lie to ourselves. Okay? So that's what we said we're going to do. We looked at it and we explored it and we said, okay, we had all been working for a few years and we decided that, hey, let's do this. Now, for any of the students out there, especially in engineering school, I don't know whether it still happens. I know the dean is here. I'm still scared of the dean. The reality of it all is there might be one module that you have to take, and that might be called financial accounting. Okay? Don't sleep in that class. Okay? So the four founders obviously did. That was the module we did really badly in. So on the 1st of May 2006, we decided let's do the company and let's do a paid up capital of $10,000. $2,500 each. We went to the ATM just before midnight and then again after midnight because the typical limit to the POSB ATM machine is $2,000. I know that because I withdrew $2,000 on the 1st of May 2006. So we started with that. Now comes the vision of how we've done or where we are and how we've grown. When you start with nothing per se, you become a team with terrible inferiority complexes, which are really burnt into you. We started poor beyond belief. We had no money, we had $10,000, we didn't know how to do finance, we didn't know how to do accounts, we didn't know how to sell. Okay? So the reality of it all is we said, okay, with 10,000 bucks, let's rock and roll. You know, I love business books. I really love them. So they tell you about strategy, this product position, la 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 la. You know what you need for that? Money. You know what we didn't have? Money. So the reality of it all is we became engineering mercenaries and HOPE Technik was started. We believe in one fundamental thing. We believe that we are engineers. And based on fundamental theories, fundamentals of engineering, if there's a problem and it becomes an opportunity to deliver it, if the fundamental says it's doable, by hell, we're going to do it. That's it. If we look back in hindsight, I think it was a very stupid mandate and a stupid idea per se, but the beauty of youth is there's one which is called arrogance, okay, and the other one is that we really didn't know what we were doing. So it was more the latter, we didn't know what we were doing, so we said, okay, let's do that. So we started the business becoming engineering mercenaries. Okay, so we continued and we started. Right now, if I fast forward 11 years later, the special projects department that we have, Technik Square, has delivered probably around 380 contracts to 14 countries in the world under special projects. Now, if you go to MBS, RWS, a lot of shopping malls, you see these electric car charging stations on the green color lots. They're gray color boxes this size. Yeah, we're the OEMs. We are OEMs in 14 countries in the world to 7 car manufacturers in the world, and we build electric car charging stations. And that is considered one project. We have gone on to do all kinds of other stuff. Now, this start of our DNA of how we've delivered stuff becomes very interesting. The problem with our team and ourselves is that because that's how we began, we went into the dark side. I don't know whether any of you are Star Wars fans. I mean, December 15 is coming. We went to the dark side of the Force. Okay? So we went in the sense that every contract is different. Every customer is different. The countries that we serve are different. The languages we have to speak, the culture we have to face is different. And we didn't know better. That's the only world as an engineering company we knew, which is just take whatever comes your way. And we became so numb that we thought it's normal. It's really normal. To build a laparoscopic robot this size, it's normal. To build a 1:1 scale model of a fighter jet for a customer is normal. To design a bomb assembly plant for a customer in another part of the world is normal. And that's what we did. So what we had is, as a founding part of HOPE Technik, is that we had this part of the business which just takes things in. Now comes the fun part. What we did is that sometimes the contracts recur. Sometimes customers come back and ask for very similar things. Different customers come back for the same type of technology or product. We didn't have money to figure out a strategy because we can't implement a strategy. So if you can't do something, engineers are very simple people. You can't do something, don't spend the effort. Okay? You know, I know my dean is here, my prof is there. You know, we are very simple people. We study exactly what they're going to ask for the exam. Nothing more. Nothing more. Oh my goodness, I'm in so much trouble tonight. So the truth of it is that some of the contracts and some of the requirements repeated itself. And they asked for the same things and similar things. After a while, we had a team that are used to building all kinds of weird stuff. And after a while, we realized, they realized, we realized as a whole team, we said, hey, I think there's a market opportunity. I think we should try and build something from there. So our strategy is very simple, coming from special projects. When you get recurring requirements, you take a team, you start formalizing a team, you start building a special capability. Next thing, you become a department, and after the department, you become a business unit. So we fast forward to 2008, 2 years after we did that. We had this rare opportunity that Singapore Civil Defence Force decided that they needed a new generation of light fire trucks that we all nickname and call the Red Rhinos. I'm scared because this is being recorded. We had 7 persons on the payroll, and we said that we could build a fire truck from scratch. I got no idea what we were thinking right back then. I mean, seriously, no idea. We were fortunate that another larger company in Singapore said that they are keen to do it. Let us be subcontractors to them and push it through. So that's GSME, and we're always grateful for them. And so we did it. We started doing Red Rhino fire trucks. So founders, engineers, technicians, I mean, you can call us whatever you want to call us, okay? There were 7 of us. We basically did everything. On Saturday night, we take turns to wash the toilet. Okay, that's life. No, that's really the truth of life. So we started doing that, and then we started building and building and building. Now, when we look back, we've probably got around 100 emergency vehicles on the roads in Singapore. We have, I don't know how many fires they have fought per se, and come next week, we'll be announcing that the fire trucks will be operational in yet another country per se. So that's how it is. But now let's just stop there and you look back at it. If we looked at the scale of the problem, we are going in a very established industry called fire truck making. They exist in every part of the world. Okay, if you ask for the typical marketing or strategy point of view of what is your unique selling proposition, I will struggle to tell you the answer. All we knew is that we had that little bit of confidence in us to say that I think we can come up with a better idea. I think we could make it a bit leaner. I think we could give it a bit more power. I think the water could throw a little bit further. I think the pressure could be a bit higher. That's it. It's very, very simple stuff. No big, very huge deck of slides, and the first deck of slides gets this huge one-liner that everyone goes, wow, these guys are smart. Well, no, we're not that smart. Okay, so we didn't have that big deck of slides. So we just fought. Our point was very simple. If other people can do it, why can't we? So what if the competitors we fight against are 200-year-old companies? So what? You know, there's a very old company, if I get my numbers wrong. In the 1930s, they were set up or something, early 1900s. In 1960s, they were a trading company. They had everything from insurance, They even had a provision shop at one stage in the 50s. And this was in a country called South Korea. Right now, that company has grown a little bit bigger. It accounts for, if I could get my numbers wrong, 20% of the value of the South Korean stock exchange, and it produces 30% of the GDP of South Korea. So what do you call this little cute trading company? Samsung. One lifetime, 1960s to now, that is Samsung. If you look at Facebook, so who basically posted what you ate for lunch in 1998 on Facebook? If you did, you are lying, or you should buy a new watch. Okay? If you look at that, we said basically when we start fighting against these big companies and these big opportunities, you know, it's really, really frightening when you face against that huge might of these of the game that we play. But in the end, we look back and we said, you know, there was no moment that we believed that suddenly all the stars will align and suddenly that would be that big opportunity and it will happen. All we said to ourselves was very simple. I think we can try. I think we can try. And slowly and surely, we will start nibbling and getting more and more irritating until they start to notice us. That's tenacity that we believe in. And so we did that. Come fast forward 2015, 6 years later, we had a new opportunity to build mobile industrial robots to answer the call of IoT 4.0, IoT stuff and Industry 4.0. And so now we created yet another business called Sesto Robotics, and we serve the semicon plants. Okay, so now we take one step back. I think the question that I'm supposed to try and share with you is how we did it. I shared in the first part of why we did it. There is a dream. There is a hope of what we do. Now, as we come to the how we deliver it, so we've got all these opportunities from the business point of view. We are paid to learn. We are paid to see opportunities and we grow into these opportunities. Wonderful. So how do we actually deliver it? I mean, you all know Disrespect this evening by coming in this. This is the company jacket per se. I actually normally wear a polo shirt, which is rather dirty. My typical Levi's jeans, and I got all my safety boots because they cause foot rot. Now comes how we do it. We have got a few weird ideas in the company. One of them is, let's not trip over the small things. So how we like to run the company and run the whole team per se is very simple. There are big problems that we face. If you look and we say that in 11 years we have delivered something like 400 coming to 500 contracts, on average that means once every 10 calendar days we are delivering a contract. On average, that is the speed that we churn things out at. So that is the output that we require. We operate, we've got systems in 14 countries per se. Some of them need maintenance, some of them need upgrades. It's scary. I mean, people need to fly, people get tired, people get kids, people get blah, blah, blah. That's the reality of life. Now, these are the things that we try to, our best. I'm not saying that we do it perfectly, but what we try and do is make sure that we don't trip over the small things, in a sense that we make life very simple at HOPE. We try to cut all the peripheral crap that basically bogs engineers down from what the job actually is. And what is the job? Design, build, execute, collect money, smile, make sure customer come back. That's really the job. That's really the job. It is not writing PowerPoints. It is not writing proposals in Word documents. It is not coming to work at 9 o'clock sharp. Do you know the amount of stress that my teammates go through because they need to drop their kids to school or to kindergarten or something, and then they need to come in for 9 o'clock in the morning? So based on that excuse, I usually come in a little bit after 9 o'clock, so you know they don't feel so bad, right? But the reality of it all is that we try not to trip over the small things, in the sense that these are very difficult problems. All these kind of peripheral worries and concerns that we have, we try to ease and get rid of them. It is something as simple as having an office where no single person has a cubicle or an office? Myself included. Nobody. Finance director does not have a cubicle. You know, you got these tables with the little walls? Nobody has a wall. Don't even say a door. Maybe it's expensive, huh? But we basically, we don't have any of that. Do you know why we wear a black polo shirt? It's a great leveler. Everybody wears the same. We're almost like a uniform organization, but it's basically to make sure that we don't draw the line. We have got some really bad policies in the office. After 5:30, there's an open beer fridge concept. Engineers, WD-40, duct tape, beer, they kind of get along together, right? The reality of it all is that anybody needs to work late at night, the company will just buy food. They'll just bring the food in. Now, why do we do all these kind of things? Because my teammates have a very simple job. They have to deliver. They just have to deliver. And I really tell you, I admire my teammates because what they deliver. If I were to try and find a job right now at HOPE Technik, I would not get an interview. I would fail. I know. My two profs are here. They would tell you, yes, I would fail. So the reality of it all is that it is that case of getting rid of the peripheral stuff and doing it. So how have we equipped ourselves? Because the four founders are engineers, we are real idiots. And we didn't study that accountancy module well at all. So what we do is we like what engineers like. We like to buy machines, big boy toys. I'm not being sexist here, but they are big boy toys. Why do we do it? Because like I said in the beginning, when we start with $10,000 and you start a company and you're dead broke, you have an inferiority complex. And so what does it mean? We looked at all the bigger companies and said, I wish we had that machine, I wish we had that software, I wish we had this, I wish we had that, we got no money. So as we built the company through and through, what we did is we started buying capabilities. We bought the machines, we bought the CNC machines, we bought the 5-axis, we bought the water jet, we bought the giant KUKA arms, we bought the Faro laser arm, we bought the simulation software, we bought the engine dynamometers, we bought and we built. And then we started hiring new teammates who are better than us, much better than us, and they focus on those areas because we kind of wanted to create an engineering playground. But why do we do it? Everyone comes in and visits us and says, no, this group of guys, I don't know whether, guys and girls, I don't know whether they're serious. They seem to be having so much fun. It looks like a toy land. Every single thing that we have in the office is there to deliver a contract. It is there to make a promise of a contract a reality. And all the machines that we added on are fundamental core capabilities. Imagine, I'm not going to ask this question, but if you are a software engineer and you can't write C code, do you call yourself a software engineer? If you're a mechanical engineer and you have never touched a welding machine, or you're a mechanical engineering company, or part of the business is mechanical engineering, and you don't have any capability to weld something, or even a collection of nuts and bolts, how will my team operate? They can't, right? It will be just one contract after another contract. So I'm not saying this is a perfect answer, but I'm saying this is how we do it. We do it very simply. Sit down as an engineer and say, this is what we require to get the job done. And based on that, that's how we run the business. So we basically outfit the whole team with as many tools as we can to the best of our abilities. I can tell you, as the company has grown bigger and we're like 140 over teammates right now, we start putting processes in, the SAP ERP system is running, all that kind of stuff. It gets harder and harder, but in the end, it goes back to, so one of them was to create that product, that business per se, that can stand the test of time by having core. The next part of it was to be successful at it. And now comes the very painful part. As we start pushing very hard to be successful at what we do, and we're trying really hard to achieve that, what we realized is we need discipline. Now, I got slapped by somebody who was really amazing. He asked me, and he said, you guys build fire trucks, you build robots, you build all kinds of stuff. When the orders start picking up because your global business is growing, how are you going to manufacture the stuff? I said, oh, we're going to outsource it to contract manufacturers. All this engineering facility is all for prototype build and golden sample and stuff like that. He looked at me and he shook his head. I'll never forget what he said. He said, is engineering and production in Germany expensive? I said, yes. You actually look at it vis-a-vis, Germany is an expensive place to be. And yeah, the technicians, I've worked in Germany before. It's not cheap. I said, very good. Do you know they build some stuff in Germany? I'm like, yeah, they build planes, they build trains, they build cars, they build motorbikes. He said, they are in Europe, and you've got so many other countries around Germany that are so much cheaper to manufacture stuff. Why don't they manufacture it out of, and not in Germany? I looked at him and said, I can't understand it. He said, because they are really disciplined. They are really, really disciplined in productivity, in getting a job done very, very efficiently. And he said, if you look at Germany as a country, and you look at Singapore as a country, why can't we achieve that? Why not? It's simply because we didn't concentrate on it. We didn't focus on it. So he looked at me, and really, if I had argued with him for 5 more seconds, he would have slapped me. And I would be thankful for that slap. So now what we are on in the current phase of the business is very simple. We are here to basically get the discipline, because we've got that craziness. The craziness of answering all the weird requests in the world, and then creating business units out of it and selling it globally. And now the next chapter of what we do is having the discipline to do it very efficiently and with very high productivity, because back to the founding bits of what we did, which was, we said we are going to create a Singapore brand that can go global, that will create employment for ourselves and our next generation, because we really believe that it is our job. And that is firmly where it is. Now to end, I like to do things in reverse order because I'm a very messy engineer. I think the story to share with you all is, fundamentally at the end of the day, I'm very fortunate of the entire team. I'm very rude to call them idiots, but basically they're much better than me. My 3 other co-founders, our investors, the whole team, really, really very, very fortunate to be part of that. But now comes the kick, and all the big kick to it. In the end of the day, fundamentally of how we have done it and how my team has done it is very simple. We go back to fundamental basics. We are an engineering company that's out to go global, blah, 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 all that marketing stuff. But let's cut all the second part of the paragraph and answer and say the first thing first and foremost. We are an engineering company. Now, how did we start in 2006? The only common denominator between the 4 founders, who still argue and yell at each other every other day, is that we did a very insane project in university. For those who are familiar with it, it's called Formula SAE. It's where you build this small little single-seater race car, and it does 0 to 100 in like 3 seconds. Okay, and they compete in Detroit and stuff like that. It's a global competition. The 4 founders have only one thing in common. We did that project 4 years, with 4 years of difference between the 4 of us. I did the first year, Michael did the second year, Jeff and Kyung did the 4th year per se. And that's what was common to us. If we actually look back per se, I would say that that was one of the watershed moments that we had. It was one of the toughest projects we ever did. We were not ready for it, and in the different years, we went, we engineered, we built, and we created that confidence that we could do something like that. You look back and you ask yourself, why do we continue doing this? I've shared with you, but I think we should end with the question of how we did it at the very beginning. In life, we are very fortunate occasionally that opportunities come. You don't get the opportunity by staying at home in bed. The opportunities are found. You create luck if you are lucky. And we did that. So in 2002, I emailed a professor in NUS Mechanical Engineering, and I asked him, can we do this project? It's never been done before. Do a final year project of building a race car. Sounds really awesome, right? And the reply came 15 minutes later and said, yeah, do it. I'll back you. Professor Siaka Hing, I think 15 years. If you want to know how the whole HOPE Technik story came about, at the end of it, it's very simple. We are engineers as our core, because that's who we are. We are based on very, very fundamentals and basics per se, and we had these opportunities that gave us the confidence. And with that, to share with you where we are going, it's very simple. It goes back to what I said at the very beginning. Nobody wants us to succeed. Nobody. The world is becoming more competitive. Global travel is becoming cheaper. Internet, blah, blah, blah. It's all coming to frighten us and scare us out of our jobs. What we believe is very simple. If you want to know why the company is called HOPE, it's very simple. We are dreamers. And what is our dream? Our dream is fundamentally, we are going to build a group of companies in Singapore that is going to take this fight globally. Because, come on, I'm not going to be patriotic or something. This is our life. No one owes us tomorrow. And the only way we're going to fight them is just do something silly today. So hopefully tomorrow we'll still be alive. With that, thank you so much. And now, our wonderful moderator is going to come on board. And I hope I haven't said anything wrong, because I'm really, really scared that he's going to ask very, very difficult questions. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, man. Good evening. Don't you think he's absolutely brilliant?
No.
You know?
No.
This is about sayanging before you stab the guy.
Yeah.
Come. Have a seat.
Oh, boy.
You know, I was in broadcasting in the 1980s, and I couldn't stop recollecting an important interview I did with this great entrepreneur in the 1980s. Some of you may have heard of him, Sing Wong Hu. He was so excited, but not in as flamboyant style as you. Understated, a lot more substance and gravitas, you know.
The love.
Yeah, deep affection for you. And I remember in the interview, in his calm, collected manner, full of equanimity, he said, "This is something I believe in. I've always believed in it. Why can't we have perfect sound? Why can't we have pitch perfect sound? And why can't it come from here? Why must it always be from Germany?" Did you talk to him?
No, just admired him from a distance.
He created the Sound Blaster. Phenomenal, global sensation. He is probably the only Singapore-born, raised entrepreneur who created a company called Creative Technologies that became a global brand. Because he had that passion, that zeal. So my question to you is this: why is it that besides Creative Technologies and Singapore Airlines, there is not any other brand in the commercial sector in Singapore that has become admired in the global arena? Singapore Airlines doesn't count. It's not an entrepreneurship. It is constituted by statute. Neither is DBS constituted by statute. I'm talking about real entrepreneurship-driven enterprises that has made it to the global world by fighting shoulder to shoulder with the best in the world. Why, Peter? Why has it taken 3 to 4 decades before we find you?
No. It's not proven, so still fighting, still hoping. I think Ron Sim, OSIM has done well.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of good B2B companies out there. If you look at it, I mean, you can fight the definition of everything. You look at how Singtel has gone global per se, it's good. But I don't think that's the question.
No.
I think the question is, you know, everyone says we're not innovative and stuff like that. I don't think that's a fair comment. I think the reality is this. In 1965, we became a country. In 1945, we were basically obliterated by the Second World War. The previous generation that built this country on their broken backs, I'm very careful with my words, with their broken backs, what were they fighting for? Maslow hierarchy of needs, basic subsistence, having food, running water. Let us not forget that in this country, we didn't used to have a sewer system. Now we've flushed the toilet with clean potable water, and that is in 1 generation. So what did our previous generation have? They didn't have money. What opportunity do you have? You have got to feed a family. There is nothing going on around you. So they didn't have that opportunity. I think what is happening now in my generation and the next generation is, I'll be honest, we are the fortunate generation. Our parents had fought very hard, they saved hard, they worked hard. You know, when I finished school, barely, my mom didn't ask me to quickly find a job, although I had to find a job immediately. I mean, she was not waiting for pocket money. The lights were still going to be on and it's still going to be water, and we could still flush the toilet. Now I flip you what happens in the rest of the world. You know what is really impressive? The United States of America. Because in 1939, Pearl Harbor, if I get my numbers, my dates correct, that was when they were hit on local soil. The next time it happened was September 9/11. Other than that, what did they have? They continued growing and growing and growing. When I asked the original question, how many companies that we know of and brands and stuff like that we own come from a Singapore company, right? If I ask you how many companies or brands do we own that come from the US, not a single person here this evening will say I own nothing that comes from a US company. If you look at it historically, if you ask me, the biggest issue is that they had prosperity. They were part of the first, second, and they were the first and second and third industrial revolution. So they had prosperity and they had a chance to venture and to try.
But Peter, you're not answering my question.
I tried.
Yeah, for an engineer, you're bloody long-winded.
Yeah.
So go back to engineering, my friend. Answer the question squarely. Pull the bull by the horns. Go back to your basics. Answer the question.
I think
Stop being a politician.
I was
and
really
you're not
scared.
good at it.
Oh, damn.
Okay.
No second career.
At least you understand it is a second career in Singapore. You're turning all red. Is there a reason for it?
I think if you want to create a company, you have to have a dream. A dream that really bites you. I'm fortunate I got 3 other co-founders that shared that dream. The dream is one thing. The next part of it is, again, I don't want to sound arrogant, but you need to believe that you got a capability to deliver it. And now that sounds very given, but the reality is whatever you do, you got to be really hardcore at it, in the sense that you really, really have to believe that you can master that trade. It is not, I hate saying this in a university, I mean no disrespect, it's not about the exam results. It is not. I learned how to weld in a friend's driveway in Singapore by myself. Bought 2 bottles of oxyacetylene and bought a cheap torch and learned how to weld. I was 19. It's really, you really believe that that is what you want to do, that's your calling, and you're really going to push. And I think the third part to it is, I think a lot of people are doing that in Singapore, and in the end, there's a lot of sacrifice. I mean, 11 years later, it sounds very good. If you go back to 06, it doesn't sound very good. So I think to summarize very simply, that dream has to be something that you are willing to spend your life doing. And you know, once you start, once you commit, you don't lift. And you go all the way.
And you spend your life doing, knowing that you will succeed without knowing necessarily how. I think that's the key. That's what I'm seeing in you. Sitting down there, the one thing that got me to admire about you is that you knew that you're going to make it with your teammates. Not necessarily knowing how, but you know that you're going to make it. That's called self-efficacy. Write it down.
I can't spell it. Efficacy.
Self-efficacy.
4 syllables. Oh
Yeah.
my word.
No, but isn't that what you saw in this guy? And I think that's the difference. That's what That's what Sim Wong Woo had. And I'll tell you another guy who had that. He's passed away. His name is Lee Kuan Yew. He had that. And the late Minister Mentor Lee, again as a broadcaster, when I did an interview with him in the 1980s, he used a term that is etched in my mind. The term was messianic zeal.
Wow.
And only he will use these kind of terms. I almost went down on my knees. But if you break it down, you understand why that man used that term. See, one doesn't need to agree with everything he had done, but it'll be stupid of us not to accept that there's one defining quality in the man, which is nothing stops him if he puts his mind to it. And it's not about mediocrity. And he does it with the zeal that only a Messiah has. And a Messiah doesn't necessarily know how he's going to get you across the sea, but he will. Am I a Messiah or what? No, but don't you think that he has that? That's called the X factor. But you need to accept it and stop being self-effacing. There needs to be a certain amount of ego, right?
I think that success is not about whoever is, whatever appointment, or whoever is a founder or not. It's not a scalable solution.
Yeah.
I will not take any credit, not because I'm pretending to be humble or pretending to be nice. I have not built the fire trucks. I have not built the drones. I have not built the exoskeletons. I have not done the finance system. I have not done our inventory stake. I'll be very blunt here. I know exactly what the direction of where we are going is. I know how much I've contributed, and I can promise you from the bottom of my heart, the only way we scale as a business is not having one Bota head standing in front of an entire team with 3 other co-founders and us waving our hands and saying, that's how we do it. That is not how we are going to grow. The 3 business units that we have, 2 of the business units are run not by founders.
Yeah.
That's the next generation who's going to take us where we want to all go, all of us. So I don't pretend to be humble. The reality of it all is I'm very clear on who is contributing what. And it is not, I'm a face to a company.
You're more than a face.
An ugly one, I know.
Yeah. I wouldn't call that a face, actually. But I mean, you obviously are an inspiration. You obviously provide direction. You need not be the one who does it. And I think you have those qualities to get us there, right? And I'm playing the devil's advocate, right? I believe that one of the reasons why Sim Wong Woo may not have continued to succeed is, this is my opinion, he was too self-effacing. This is my opinion, and I hope I'm wrong. He was too self-effacing. Sometimes you need a certain amount of ego. I'm not saying that you got to be egotistical, but you do need a certain amount of ego, a certain amount of conceit, as long as it doesn't become excessive. I'm being very honest. To get people to follow you and drive. So it's what you see in someone like Tony Fernandez. Iconic. When you talk to him, you can see, I mean, he's a bit full of himself, but in an interesting way. You know what I'm saying? There's a certain charisma, there's a certain, I did it. But he also talks about his team. But I see HOPE Technik I'm seeing this as a humongous global phenomenon. I do.
We will try.
Can I invest? You know, I can invest more than 10,000.
Where were you
How
in
many of you want
2006? Come on!
Yeah.
Come on!
You didn't talk to me, man. You just stuck to the poor engineering guys for money. There's a lot of money outside, no? Outside the engineering circuit. How many of you, just a show of hands, how many of you today, just listening to him, understanding what you know about the company, would invest in HOPE Technik today? How many? I would.
I have a little hat on a bucket outside there, yeah?
Those who are not
Cash checks only, okay?
those who are not raising their hands have a problem with you know, muscular problem, you know. No, but look at it. It's about faith, you know. How do you think PE ratios are calculated in the end? You think it's some fantastic scientific method? It's really about show of hands. It's about what people think is going to be down the road. And that's how Apple started, right? So I would like to move on to a slightly different point, right? You're obviously very passionate about engineering, and you've got some of the finest engineering brains here, and I have tremendous respect for engineers. I remember sitting here with Philip Yeo. Remember Philip Yeo?
Yes.
Yeah. And Philip Yeo, for those of you who don't know Philip Yeo was one of the most charismatic chairman of EDB, Economic Development Board, and extremely powerful as an individual, great vision and a doer. Right. The only problem is he speaks so fast, most people don't understand him, and I think it's intentional. Yeah. So he was seated here, and I said, Philip, is it true that you said that the only course that any university should offer is engineering, and everything else is a waste of time and money? I said, is it true? Because journalists don't always get it right. And with a straight face, he said, absolutely. Yeah. And seated right in front here, where Bernard is seated, is this person by the name of Professor Tan Cho Chuan. Last time I checked, he didn't do engineering, right? So, and he also happens to be, his day job is president of NUS. So I stopped him and I said, Cho Chuan, you have wasted state funds, you know? And Cho Chuan looked stunned, right? So I said, are you saying that so many people here have really wasted state funds? And he said, in his own audacious style, yes. Only engineers deserve state funding. And the thing about him is, he believes in his own rubbish, you know? So anyway, the sad thing about it is, I believe in it. I believe that a country that loses engineers, practicing engineers, is doomed. I'm not an engineer, but I have tremendous respect for engineering. I think we have a crisis in our hands. We don't have enough people going into engineering, and those who graduate don't practice engineering. How are we going to survive? Where are you going to get your engineers? Import? How?
We've got a...
As you grow, you know?
The current system is we've got a team of around 140 odd teammates. We're taking around 300 interns a year. From IT, from every polytechnic, from any university, local and abroad, all the way to Ivy League schools. We even take in PhD students from overseas as interns. And what we do is very simple. We groom them. Our retention rate and conversion rate is, I think, holding around 11 or 12%. So for every 10 interns that we have, one of them comes back and wears what we wear black. And that's how we do it.
But how many of them are from qualified engineers from our universities? Of your 100 engineers?
I would say that of engineering team in the office, graduate engineers, we'd have probably around 60 of them. Those that didn't come from local schools, 6.
Oh, so majority of them are.
Yeah.
So in 5 years, how many engineers do you think you need? Given your trajectory?
A lot.
Engineers normally give a number.
You must understand there are 4 founders of the company. One of them had to become the CEO. You know which was the worst engineer of the 4, right? The one who can't give numbers. The trajectory is just insane. I mean, to throw a number is
Yeah. So I would imagine it would be in the thousands. It would be about 1,000.
No.
More?
Less.
Less?
Much less.
Much less?
We don't believe in a linear growth.
Okay.
Because that is not productive.
500?
Much less. Maybe if we
Come on.
Okay, if we got a simple philosophy, when we double the business, we expect the team to grow by maybe 20%.
Yeah. And you're going to grow it by 10 times.
Yeah, so 10 would be 2 times 2 times 2. So we expect ourselves maybe double the team size.
Okay, let's say 300.
Okay, well, your numbers are.
Yeah, let's say 300, you know. Because remember what the guy told you about Germany? Build it. So if you want to build it and not outsource it, you need engineers.
Yeah.
JTC is paying a price because outsource. Today you need to start hiring engineers again. I mean, you need to, right? So at some point, so let's say 300. Of the 300 engineers, do we get enough of the type of engineers you want with the right attitude coming from our universities, NUS, NTU?
Definitely the pool is there. Now comes the trickier part.
Will they fit?
No. Why would they choose us?
Yeah.
It's a two-way relationship when you build a team. We are looking for a certain type of teammates. Wonderful. Now these teammates are going to be very highly sought after. They are hardcore engineers, and the stuff that they Google on weekends is exactly what they build on Monday morning. I mean, they have no life.
Yeah.
They are geeks. We are geeks beyond belief. That's what we are. And so we have got to ask ourselves the question, why would they choose us? We have got some of the best companies in the world who've got offices and outfits here in Singapore, and the jobs are there. Being able to work anywhere and around the world is common these days. So now the difficult question is not whether the pool is. I'm very sure the pool, okay, I'm not sure. I will tell you that the pool exists, that it comes from schools in Singapore, definitely from NUS. Definitely. And it's continued to be the way, and it will continue to grow. I think now what we're seeing is the rise of engineers, where we start talking about Elon Musk, we start talking about Mark Zuckerberg. You know, now engineering is cool again. So we are going to get really good brains coming in and growing per se. That's all cool.
So that's what I'm driving at, my friend. Singapore needs companies like you to make engineering sexy again. Am I right, Dean? We do. Engineering has not become sexy. We need companies like you to go out there and evangelize and tell people that engineering is not what people think it is.
Yes.
Engineering is about designing and building.
I think what we are going to really need is an entire ecosystem. We need companies that are all wanting to say, we are from Singapore, we're going to go global, we're going to push, we're going to go to cool stuff, we're going to be disciplined, we can scale, we are good companies, good employers per se. And now comes the fun part. We need a lot of them so we can fight with each other for manpower. Now you think about it, being in isolation has never worked.
Yeah.
What you need is an entire ecosystem. Go back to the example of Germany. BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Volkswagen. You want to be an automotive engineer? You got a job. You have a job there. What we need an entire ecosystem. We need to challenge each other. We need to fight. We need to find the best talent. If we have that pool, we have that critical mass, then I would say we can move to the next part. It's cool, it's fun, and that's what's necessary.
How come he wasn't in the Committee for Future Economy? No, I mean, we do. Were you?
Yeah. Subcom.
Oh, okay. So you're not in the committee that drafted the final report?
No, so guy sitting at the back taking the free coffee.
Then you're excused. But I think we need a lot more of homegrown companies such as HOPE Technik to go out there and bring to life engineering again. And I hope that we can make him our poster boy and do it. Am I right, guys? Okay. Final question before I let you go and let them eat you up.
Ouch.
Okay. AI, artificial intelligence, is part of your playground, right?
Yes.
It's a fascinating world. Everybody and their mother is talking about AI these days. All right. So the question here is, how are you able to use AI to further your goals? AI is not exactly engineering, it's science, right? How are you going to interface AI with hardcore mechanical engineering to create things that are fascinating out there and relevant?
There are two parts to it. So when we design stuff, we buy the latest software that's AI enabled, it optimizes. For mechanical engineers, it's reverse FEA. You say this is a low path, it designs for you the perfect part. I mean, it makes our life a lot easier. We adopt it as fast as the world can produce it. That's one part. Is that a competitive advantage? No, it's not. It is not. That's called Me Too. At least you are at the head of the curve of the Me Too curve. So what we do is that when we look at the technology, AI, we will adopt it to the best of our ability. We will not grow and build that capability because we can't fight. When we, as a company with no money, and it's, with that kind of background, the reality of it is very simple. We've got a saying, we do not fight, we have to win. There's no point us jumping, for us as a small company in Singapore, to jump on the AI bubble and hire people and do stuff and say, we are doing AI and it sounds really cool. And in the end, can you commercialize it and get the final money? If we can't do it, that's called fighting a fight and not winning. So we don't bother. So now comes the fun part. What if AI as a general scheme of next type of technology, we don't believe that adopting it is enough. We have to create value out of it. We have to be the ones that own a next generation technology. It has to come from us. Because if we can use an AI package to design a piece of software and self-write the software per se, if we can have that software capability, do you think our competitors and our counterparts in Vietnam can do it? Yes. In China? Yes. Anywhere in the world can they do it? Yes. So why will we survive? We will not survive. So
but you will adopt AI
as fast as we can.
Yeah.
Innovation in our definition is being comfortable at being uncomfortable. That is our definition of innovation in a company. So AI, it scared the crap out of us. We didn't like what the software was producing. We had all the kind of challenges. We didn't like it because we're uncomfortable, because we've never done it before. And so even more so, we have to adopt it. And so all we do is adopt it as fast as possible, but that is not the end all be all.
Absolutely.
We say 3D printing, buy a 3D printer, buy 5, buy 10. If you can buy it, anyone else can buy it. So what's the value they're going to bring to tomorrow? You need to be the person who builds the next generation 3D printer. We have a patent for 6D printer. One-upmanship, right? We got 3D, we got 6D. Twice as good.
So is it 2 3Ds to join together?
No, I can't tell you the secret, can I?
Okay. All right. All right. In an interview with Supply Chain Asia, right, you said this, and I'd like to quote you. You can see the robots doing all the work while the workers simply sat and watched. I think with Singapore looking at creating a fully automated port by 2025, we can expect a similar scenario. I do not want to give a direct answer to the question of whether, you have a habit of not giving a direct answer, to the question of whether robots will replace us. But the fact is, that a fully robotic system will be faster, provide better accountability, ensure higher efficiency, and will ultimately be much cheaper to run than hiring humans. You are into job killing, aren't you?
Yep.
So it's an ethical issue. A lot of people see AI as being synonymous with killing jobs, making jobs redundant, a la disruption, right? Even lawyers and legal profession, accountancy. So how do you reconcile this? You sounded, at least the way you were quoted, you sounded somewhat callous. It doesn't matter if people lose their jobs, it's only their livelihood. But I'm going to go ahead and play with my robots and create great efficiency. So what if it's at the expense of people's livelihood and their children, right?
That sounds bad, doesn't it?
Very bad. And I'm very disappointed with you.
There's two sides to the coin. We always talk about it as an ethical question. Now remember one thing, mankind cannot unlearn what it has learned. It has never happened before. If I like cars, so you watch Formula 1, they keep changing the rules to try and slow the cars down. The cars keep going faster no matter what they do. What's the fundamental to the basis of it? Whatever they've learned, they can never unlearn. Whether we do it or we don't do it, it's going to happen. Face reality. If we are the ones that can build a good company and keep growing this, and we can create the jobs to create the disruptors, then very well. The fellow countrymen in this country, we can go and eat chicken rice together at a coffee shop because they will still have jobs per se. That's the first basis. So we are not part of the ethical question because it's going to happen with or without us. We are not even the littlest, tiniest piece of plankton in a pond. It's just going to happen. That's the first thing. The second thing now I have to ask everybody here, how many of your family members are unemployed horse carriage drivers? How many of your neighbors are unemployed telex machine operators? How many? Why do we call them bugs in computers? Because you know originally the transistors were actually like light bulb kind of things and they got warm and blah, 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 and the transistor was this size. Now it's 7 nanometers. How many of your best friends from school are unemployed computer bulb changers? How many? The reality of all this is that now we've got social media, we've got all that kind of stuff. So a lot of these painful questions are put in our face right in front of us, as if we've never seen them before. What? We are in the year 2017. In the early 1900s, the Wright brothers created the plane. You think they didn't get a change? When did the motor car come about? Same part of the century, right? When did internet come about? In the late 90s, right? How the world changed. Don't we forget, in the 80s we had telex machines, didn't we? And we had jobs based around that and companies based around that. How many people are still unemployed based on that? You can't answer that, right? You know my answer. It's rhetorical. Nobody. The reality of it all is change has always been there. Now, you look at this. So we've got Uber, we've got Grab. Great companies. We've got this new form of transportation per se. Now I go back, I said we've got cartoon theory, right? Do we believe that in the next 10 years, autonomous vehicles are going to become autonomous taxis? Yes, it's going to happen. So face reality, are we going to have, probably in Singapore, we've got a couple of tens of thousands of private hire drivers and taxi drivers per se? Do we think that in the year 2030, we are going to find an uprising where we have 70,000 unemployed drivers because the autonomous taxi has come about? The reality is no. We are smart people. Society will move, jobs will change, and things will happen. So as much as I sounded callous in that interview, it's very simple. Because I think the whole answer is, bluntly speaking, look, it's been happening every day. All these things have happened. Nothing has changed. Jobs change, job requirements change, careers change. This is just something else. The only reason why I think everybody is jumping up and down now and waving their hands and saying this is going to be a big one is simply because we've got social media. Look, you come from journalism, and you're an amazing journalist. You see, I'm really nice, very respectful, sir. Because I'm scared he asked me tough questions. In the past, how many TV stations did we have in Singapore? How much information do we have? You know, when Channel News Asia came about, it was so exciting, right? We had constant feed of news. Before that, you know, we'll wait for SBC 5, 9 p.m., and that's when the news comes. Now what do we have? I subscribe to 10 newspapers around the world, and they push me data every bit of the day so I can see whatever is happening to the world. And that is the reason why, and that's formal media. If we now look at informal media of Facebook and stuff like that, LinkedIn, whatever, Instagram, I still haven't figured that one out. No one wants to see my pictures. The truth of the matter is that it just, you know, people keep talking, you keep reading that stuff. The truth is that it's the same data point. It's just been repeated 5,000 times in front of you, and that's why we think it's a big problem. I don't think it is.
I hear you. I'm not completely convinced, but I hear you. There's some truth in what you say. But I'd like to just dangle a question, and then I'm going to throw it over to the floor, right, for us to think about. Who is accountable? Who is accountable when jobs are lost? When you have fake news, or when you have terrorists who post marketing brochures on the net, who is responsible for preventing that from happening? Governments? Google? Yahoo? How many of you think only governments or the individuals have a responsibility for that? How many of you feel that the large companies that provide the service, provide the platforms, also have a shared responsibility for that? How many of you feel? It's a philosophical question. How they're going to become accountable is a different issue. First question is, should they see themselves as being accountable? So I'm just leaving that as a question in response to Peter's point. This is not to corner you, but it is an important issue, because I see your company holding some kind of a pole position 5 years, 10 years down, and I think these questions need to be asked. Questions, comments? And as I say, please, no speeches. Yes, Keng Jun, my good friend.
Easy question, please.
Keng Jun? Very easy.
Okay, name is Keng Jun, Yo Keng Jun, Business School alumni. My question is, I have this disconnect, you know, with due respect to the Dean and Professor Sia here. I want to question how 4 young engineering graduates have the audacity to start a company. You have no money, you have no core competence, and you're fighting, you know, with the big boys. So there's something that you're not sharing with us. How have you managed the first few years? Because that will be the toughest.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let me be honest then. I like race cars, building race cars. I started it as a hobby when I was, okay, let's not go into the age. Maybe around 10, 11 years before HOPE Technik. So it's when I was in secondary school. I would actually go up with, and sit in the back of a friend's car and go up to the Malaysian racetracks, and I would volunteer to be free help, and I'll wash the car, polish the car, clean the tires, wash the rims, mop the floor. Formula SAE came about. I did my internship in the UK, and I started, now this is the fun part. When I graduated from NUS, I was very fortunate to start off with a job in NUS, and then I left to join Petronas Touring Cars. And I started as the lowest ranking mechanic in a professional racing team in England for the British Touring Car Championship, which at that time was one of the best saloon car championships in the world. The year was 2004. That was the beginning of 2004. By 2005, I took the package back to Asia as chief engineer, Petronas touring cars. I believed that I had something. That was my proving ground. When I got my internship with now defunct sports car company called TVR, 2,800 persons applied for one internship position. And I was the only yellow-skinned boy in an entire factory in England with 900 people per se. And I had that. That's me. I go to my other co-founder, Michael. Michael is a civil engineer. Let's not judge. It's still okay. And we basically had a very similar career path. When I left Petronas per se, he took over my role as chief engineer. Before me, the very first chief engineer to Petronas touring cars was a gentleman called Peter Glitzer. Peter Glitzer was head of motorsports Ford Motor Company worldwide. The second head was Mike Carroll. Mike Carroll is head of motorsports General Motors, South Africa. The third chief engineer was Peter Ho. That's about the end of the introduction. The fourth one was Michael Leong, one of my co-founders. Now, he's a funny guy. All three of us had always said that it's impossible to run three of these cars side by side. It is just too much mental load. We can't simulate, we can't engineer, we can't prep the cars, we can't do it. What Michael did was he became chief engineer. He ran the three cars side by side. We all failed to win the championship. My fight in 2004 was 2005 was the Asian Touring Car Championship. He won that championship the next year, running three cars side by side with half the team that I had. And that's Michael. Prof. Xiao, remember, when we did Formula SAE, my car never made it to America because it wasn't really a car, it was more like a trolley. If the floor was going downwards like that, the car would roll down. If the floor went this way, it would roll backwards. Not car, trolley. Michael's team basically had a shoestring budget, and on the day that they were supposed to fly off to America, I was suspected of having dengue fever. So I went there, wrapped in a blanket at the Changi airport, gave him a set of documents, Prof. Xiao was there, and I said, good luck. Don't break down. First time in Singapore, a Southeast Asian team ever did Formula SAE. 140 teams entered that year. He came out 58. His car never broke down. The car was built like a tank because they had no money to buy spare parts. When we did a corporate video or a promotional video many years later, they tried to drive the car and slide the car to show that the old car was not very good. The driver who drove Michael's year's car was not a really good driver, really. And so he banged into the curb. The car did not break, the curb broke. Sorry, Dean, this is true. I'm not exaggerating. So if I go forward, another co-founder, Jeff Tang, who's now the CTO and chief engineer of the company, I hated this guy. I genuinely hated this guy. So I did the 03 car, Michael did the 04 car, then we went professional racing. So Formula SAE, 06 car, led by this idiot called Jeff Tang. I really didn't like him. So it's an engineering company, competition done by the Society of Automotive Engineers in the US, proper organization. And so what is the SAE thing about this race? So at the end of the day, there's a very prestigious thing, it's engineering undergrads, okay, called the design finals. So you've got 140 cars and they do the dossier analysis, and you are graded and critiqued by the top race car engineers in the world. We are not talking about a Formula One engineer. We are saying you get critiqued by the chief engineer of Ferrari. That level that they play for Ferrari Formula One. And so what happened? Our cars, my car was terrible, okay? Michael's car was a tank. The third car, David So's car, kind of was like cheese. When it gets hot, it starts moving, okay? Come Jeff's car. He had never built a race car in his life, neither anyone in his team. And they did the quarterfinals in the world. That means they were the top 8 designs in the world, graded by the top race engineers in the world. Coming from a guy who was leading a team who had never built race cars before. Now comes the fourth monkey, Ng Kiang Lun. I was a staff back then in NUS, and I'm quite a rough person. I told the team, you want to do this as your final year project? I don't think you can make the cut. I give 48 hours and you write me a report and tell me why you should be on board the team. Everybody's replies were terrible. Jeff's was the worst. It was like A4 paper written as if a kindergarten kid had written the thing using crayons. and drew this disgusting Formula One car with fire coming from the exhaust. Ng Kiang Lun replied with a 50 or 60-page thesis. He had done the computational fluid dynamics of a variable length inlet throttle system and had simulated using Ricardo wave the engine performance, and he said he is confident that his final project will deliver 11% torque improvement in this part of the band, and based on that, we will be 7% faster in the new car. I gave him 48 hours, and that's what he replied. To answer your question, dear sir, what was the confidence we had? It was each other. We all had our little victories in life. We felt that we had fought. We had been in this game of engineering, the world that we know, and we had our little victories, and we had that confidence to do it. So as much as I won't normally say that, if you ask the question, the truth is, there was a confidence that we gained. And based on that, going back to your point, we believe that if we had gone through all that, okay, that was individually, right? Now if the four of us just stick together and keep beating each other up and keep arguing, we hope it'll work.
And the whole is definitely larger than sum of parts. Huh?
When you add a team together, it's not an addition. 1 + 1 doesn't equal to 2. It's a number much bigger than 2 if you get it to work right. So the four of us, we tackle different problems, we tackle different things. We keep the honesty with each other, and we argue, scream, and yell at each other every day. But that, I think, keeps us on our toes. And that makes the magic. But I hate it when they scold me. Because I got nothing to retort. They're like, you did bad. I'm like, yeah, I did really bad.
Wouldn't you agree that the way he told that story is most compelling? That's the mark of a champion. Give him a hand, guys. Good answer. Did he answer your question? After all that inspirational thing, you got to go and ask the finance question. Okay, finance part, he's asking, how did you run the place? You have exactly 1 minute to answer the question. Because there are other people who... 18 months, no salary, dated wife, girlfriend then, currently wife, go to McDonald's on Saturday night, pretend as if you need to go to the toilet every time you get to the counter of McDonald's because you have $2 in your wallet. Run credit card deals until every letter that goes in your letterbox is red in color, and the four of us have that. No money. Go all the way. We did say before, till bankruptcy do us part. You face reality. That is the truth. Even up to now, we have got good investors. Singtel Innovate. Singtel is one of our investors. The other investor is Heliconia, fully owned by Temasek. Great investors. Respect them tremendously. Up to today, the four founders and directors still underwrite and guarantee every loan the company takes, and every contract, we are personal guarantors because the banks give us much better rates. I said before, when we said we commit, that is how we play the game. If the company doesn't succeed, I am going to be a bankrupt for the rest of my life. And that's how we paid for it. You won't have to come to that. There are enough investors here to bail you out.
The little hat is still outside and is all ready for the checks.
All right. Question answered? Good. Next question. Yes. You need to use the mic. By the way, this is being recorded on camera and webcast live globally.
Hi, Peter. I've just met you.
Hi.
But I'm extremely impressed by your zeal and passion for what you're doing and what you're trying to do, for your company and for Singapore as a whole. I have two questions. The first one is, I believe that you got the Red Rhino project quite early in your company's life. Yeah. So what were the success factors for why you got that project? Okay. The second question is, going forward, what will be primary to ensure that your company can still grow? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so how do we do the Red Rhino contract? We were very fortunate, first and foremost, that they even gave us a chance. But if you want to know the technical reason, it's very simple. It was a contract we waited for all our lives. The four of us loved race cars. We came from Formula SAE. When the tender came out, we said, why don't we just look at a fire truck and build a race car out of it? If you look at the safety documents, okay, there's a safety cage per se. Safety is very important to emergency firefighters. What did we propose? We said the safety elements of the vehicle will follow FIA, Federation International Automobilia, the guys that even govern Formula One. And we're going to use Baja spec. Baja spec is the most ridiculous spec you can find in the world. It's about people racing across a desert in lorries. And we are going to use that safety spec to do it. We tried to balance the vehicle. We did the stupidest of things. If you look at a Red Rhino fire truck, we carry 120 liters of foam. And you can never find the foam tank. You know where they are? You know the front fenders of the car? They are inside the fender. No one has ever seen that before. Why? Because we want weight balance of the car, like race car. So if you ask me how we did it, was very simple. We had no prejudice in our mind. We didn't know what a fire truck was supposed to be. We said it should do this, it should be safe, it should... Okay, SCDF knows this is the truth of the matter. We push the vehicle in testing, in private test areas, okay, to the limit. And when that car breaks free because we've driven too fast, it does a perfect drift. And it's very easy to control. We went to that level of engineering to say that this is going to be a safe vehicle. So to answer the first question, I think what we proposed was something that the industry had never seen before, because we didn't know what was the norm. We only knew what the little we knew. So that was how we got that. Oh my word. I won't go into too much details. I'll say that we were a subcontractor. We designed the vehicle and we looked after the manufacture of 8 vehicles for less than the price of 1 vehicle. So we had 7 persons on payroll, 5 persons were on that team, 2 persons were outside there and they had to make ends meet for the rest of the company. We burned through that budget in 4 weeks. We were on that contract for 14 months. We said, this is where we want to go and we are going to do it. That's the genuine, honest truth, and that's how it is. So that's the first part to your question. Second part of the question is, how do we continue growing? Now comes the really, really weird part. We always talk about STEM when it comes to engineering. Scientists, technologists, engineers, mathematicians. We believe in a very poorly spelled STEAM. We will add art and add marketing. Now you see the problem with it is in the world of engineering, no matter how good you are, it can and immediately will be a commodity. If you have the same performance and you can do it for a cheaper price, people will buy. That's the reality of life. So what's our future? First, art. If you ask an engineer to design a fire truck, it will be drawn like that. All the corners will be exactly 90 degrees. Not 89, not 91, 90 degrees. It will be painted in only one color, black. Okay, that's the reality of it all. Now you have to bring in a new generation. The new generation is art. You have to make things appealing, visually appealing. That's something we strongly believe. That's the A now in STEAM. And I went, because I'm trying to increase the number of syllables in the word. The M part is marketing, which is about brand. The next thing that we need to do is, let's, again, cartoon theory. If we're going to fight against the world head on, it's a matter of time before we lose, right? We will never be cheaper than people. That's the reality of life. So what is the last part of M, marketing? It's about creating a global brand. It's about creating brand loyalty from customers, creating what people want to be associated with, everything that you understand from the word brand and marketing. So if you ask how we're going to grow forward at the end of the day, it is not about building more, taking more contracts, doing this, what have you not. It's about finding the right opportunities, finding the things that we can scale, making the stuff work technically well or best in market. Okay, take away the well, best in market, okay, make them look really good and have a brand that people want to say, if let's say it's a fire truck, I want to be in a very obscure part of the world and people are going to say, I want to buy a Trigen automotive fire truck because that's the cool stuff. And that's what we want to do. And that we feel is necessary. Again, we can't afford to fight. We can only win.
Okay. Quick one, quick answer.
Yep.
What resources would you be lacking most now?
Quick answer.
A new CEO.
Is that a serious comment?
That's a serious comment. I am one of the 4 founders. I became CEO by default. I'm employee number 1 of the company, and by default, I became CEO. I'm in this position and appointment by accident. The reality of what we need as a whole country to go back to this innovation and new companies to come up with. Do you know that there's something called CEO by accident? You know there's inventor or founder or entrepreneur by accident. Then there's by design. Now we go to the next generation. Management and guidance and strategic thinking, there are by accident. Limpe. And then there's going to be by design. I don't have an MBA. When I did investment deal and the investors were talking about EBITDA and stuff like that, I was like, yes, EBITDA, E-B-I-D-T-A. I was actually Googling under the table there, right? For valuation of the company we founded for 9 years, right? To try and understand what the hell are they talking about.
You thought it was an opera.
Yeah, I thought it was a bad word. EBITDA. So really what we're lacking is, in the end, the right talents that are able to take a company global. And that includes my job.
It's a great point. Okay, we've got questions coming in through Pigeonhole. Can we have the first question up, please?
Okay, that is scary.
What are the top 3 qualities you look for in recruiting fresh engineering grads? All mercenary buggers, you know? They fail to see the larger philosophical points he's making. You know, all they want is a job, you know?
I love whoever this is. Yeah, we are engineers. Straight to the point. Top 3 qualities. What have you done? Justify yourself. That's it. We don't really, for us, at HOPE Technik, we really don't care about the results.
Or big time resumes.
Yeah. I have never actually flipped through a resume and looked at the score sheet per se. There's no value to it. If I sit the person down and say, tell me about what you have done so far regarding this, and you, I got first class honors. I'm sorry, no disrespect to first class honors. I couldn't get it. I mean, like the other side of the class, the other end of the scale. But the reality of it all is, what have you done? Why are you industry ready? Don't forget, when you come out as an engineer, right? No one is paying you to learn. That was your job for all your life to that point when you graduated. We call it commencement, right? You know, when they take that cert, they should shake. They should get scared. Because that's when you are now going to be paid for what you have achieved all the rest of the previous part of your life. And the reality is industry ready. What are the 3 qualities? I'll tell you. That's the first one. The second one is grit. Come on. I wish there was a point in time in life when all of us, including myself, that there will be this thing with blinking lights around and say, this is the moment that if you don't go home for the next 5 months and you push for this, this is your watershed moment. This is when you become woohoo. I wish there was that case. There isn't. Grit is in the middle of the second night when you want to give up and you didn't. The third one, I can't use bad words on stage, right? Be a nice person. Be a nice person. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much it is a career, how much is a profession, you are a person, right? We are all people. There's no point dealing with a difficult person. If it's a difficult, nasty person that just can't get along, you don't need to be the greatest team player, don't need to be a team leader, you don't need to be Winston Churchill, you don't need to stand on top of an armored tank and go, wah, and go. You don't need to be that. But you need to be a friend. You need to be able to be a friend. And if you ask me, if you've got the experience that you went to go and break your back to achieve, you've got a grit to have seen it through to the end, and then now the third one is that you're a nice person. I think that's everything. The job will be yours.
Well put. Another question from, can we put up the next question, please? If you get a real cool job request for which you don't have the capabilities internally, how do you decide if you accept and hire new talent or subcontract or decline? Gut feeling?
Google. How many O's have you all Googled to? You know, you go Google, 2 O's, right? You start at the bottom of the page, you see a few O's there, right? Have you seen our search engine before? We've got like 200 O's there. That means you're on a 200 search page of Google to try and find. Will we hire? Bluntly speaking, the opportunity is coming up right in front of us commercially. We will not do it. We will not take the risk. We have to deliver contracts. We get paid when the customer is happy. That is the way it is. We are not going to do something on a whim and fancy and say that, okay, we got this, we don't know how to do it. Let's just hire Mr. ABC or Miss XYZ and get this done, and let's just trust that it's going to happen. We have tried that before in the earlier days, and it was a very stupid mistake. So if we can't find enough courage to do it, and actually, you want to know the first part? We probably wouldn't even consider the contract, because if it's current state of art that everybody else can do, we won't do it. There is no way we can do something that we've never done before, that other people have continuously been doing for years, and expect to do it better. I think it's just too arrogant to assume that. So first and foremost, it won't happen, but if it's something that's completely new and we think we can get a composite team per se in, no, I don't think we should do it. I think if we cannot find internal confidence to do it, maybe in the future we'll start hiring and building a team around that new capability, but don't jump straight into it. But first and foremost, the first response to everything is Google. Honestly. Everything in engineering is actually quite fun. It's all based on fundamentals. There is nothing. There are standards. I mean, when we did electric car charging station IEC standard, do you know what IEC standard is? I also don't know. There's last time Spring Singapore had this library in Tiong Bahru, and you cannot photocopy stuff. And it's very expensive to buy a standard. It's like 2,000–3,000 euros for one set of standards. We had handphone camera. So we went to the library, take photo law, read law. Really, after that, copyright everything. Like piece of paper, you're allowed to copy the standard. And we did that. And we push. So I think in the end, to answer that question is Google law.
Okay. We have time for one last question or comment. Can be a comment as well. Anyone? I think either you're damn boring or you've answered all the questions that are on their minds. Okay, good. So there's a splendid question here online. I think it's a good closing question. Can we have it, please? Up. Basically, the question is, what's your moonshot? What's your moonshot? That big idea, that big thing.
Wow. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I'm sure you have dreamt of it.
Yep. It's a bit embarrassing to tell you what the answer is. The moonshot. Here we go. There'll be one day we'll be still in Singapore. We'll be a lot older, and everybody would kind of been retired by then. We'll find a pub or something, or a coffee shop or something, and all the old boys and girls will come back and meet each other. We'll laugh and joke. For those who are so frivolous and insecure, and maybe they still have cars they can actually drive, we have all the fancy cars outside per se. We'll all be living fantastic lives that we never believed that we could have afforded per se. And this group that I'm going to meet as a moonshot are not just my co-founders. They will be the technicians, the operators, the mechanics, the engineers that walk this entire path with us. And you can hold me to this. And that is the moonshot. That in the end, we have one life, one career. We are going to make it. We are going to get, I told you, we are not this wonderful, brilliant, cozy bear, teddy bear idea. We are not. We are honest in the sense that we want to see our success. I want to see the success of my team in a lifetime. I want us to achieve that when we can still enjoy what we have worked so hard for in our lives. And the last part, you see that the moonshot is very clear as a dream. I want to be there, and when I go to the coffee shop or the pub or restaurant or whatever it is, or the barbecue pit, they are not going to try and kill me. Because it's very important, it's not just how we start. It is how the entire story plays out. Wouldn't it be nice, after all the years and decades of fighting one contract after another and banging each other's head against the wall continuously, that we can come out of it with mutual respect as friends and as successful? If that we can achieve, then we will understand why we called ourselves HOPE. Because that's all we have is a hope.
Well, I must say, in the 50 over interviews I've done for You Alive, this is definitely one of the most inspirational, and I say that hand to heart. Inspirational, not just because you are extremely articulate, authentic, well, not in the earlier part, you know, authentic, but you really make me feel proud to be Singaporean. And I've not felt that emotion very much recently, you know. And from your response, I believe that that sentiment is not, I'm not alone in that sentiment. You have CEOs who blame their staff. You have CEOs who sack people ruthlessly. It is nice to know that there is someone who is most certainly going to be an iconic leader who still believes that you can triumph with a heart. The two are not mutually exclusive. For me, that's the strongest takeaway today, and I'm glad you ended with that. Because at the end of the day, you can be a kick-ass engineer, but if you lose your humanity, you're nothing. And I think that will be your mark of greatness, Peter. And from all of us here, we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
And I just want to end with this, my favorite quotation from Einstein. And this is something I want to present to you. No, from just words, huh? Just want to present to you. He said, great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. And great spirits will always encounter violent opposition from mediocre minds. Now we have to choose whether we want to be a great spirit or a mediocre mind. And I'd like you to continue to be that great spirit that soars.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Maurice. Thank you.
We all enjoyed
No, thank you so much.
your sharing.
Thank you.
I'm very proud to say that Peter is one of us, an NUS alumni. And just now before the talk, he was talking to his professor, Professor Sia. And I want to share with you, we're so proud. He still comes back, he's conducting some lessons, and through his example, I'm sure he'll inspire others to follow him and chase the Singapore dream of helping us build a great Singapore global company. We wish you the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're in the center. You're the skinny guy.